Why can't anything ever just be straightforward and easy? I showed you guys the large hydraulic cylinder out of this shear head that we had rebuilt a couple weeks ago, and it should have been an easy project, basically just reinstalling the cylinder, hooking everything back up. We did that just before the holidays, and we still have a leak. So once we got the cylinder reinstalled, we reinstalled the regen block and the hydraulic lines for the cylinder. We test ran it in and out and discovered that we had a little bit of hydraulic fluid still leaking around this mounting bolt for the regen block. So once I realized we still had fluid leaking around the mounting bolt for the regen block, I called the manufacturer to get some suggestions or some guidance on how to troubleshoot this further. And they said usually that still indicates a gland seal failure because this mounting bolt and one of these gland bolts intersect underneath this block. And so if the gland seal fails, one of these bolts is the path of least resistance for fluid to actually come out rather than coming out around the shaft. But before we pulled the cylinder out, I wanted to rule out any other failure, so we replaced the seal underneath the regen block, and that did not fix our issue. The manufacturer suggested pulling this mounting bolt out and running the machine to verify that that is where the fluid was leaking from. And with it running, that is where the fluid is coming out of. But when we put a strong LED light and focus on the very back side of the hole, we realized that the fluid wasn't coming from the bottom. It was actually coming from the top right here, and we discovered a very small crack. I'm glad we were able to get to the bottom of it. It is a bummer that the regen block needs to be replaced because that's a pretty costly part, but it could have been much worse. If it would have been a total cylinder failure and that cylinder needed to be replaced, it would have been much more expensive. It definitely would have been tens of thousands of dollars.